Hi, everyone, and thank you for joining us for our on-demand video on skills for effective family and self-advocacy. In this workshop, we'll learn about what advocacy means to you. We'll also go over 6 skills to improve your advocacy skills and specific ways you can make a difference. And our hope is that you'll find one or more skills that you can use to become a more effective advocate for your child. So, as we go through this video, I want you all to think about what advocacy means to you. When you hear the word advocate, what do you think of? An advocate can be broadly defined as someone who speaks up to make things better. Advocates can speak up for themselves or others. Each of you has already been an advocate. You just may not have attached the label to your actions. Advocacy covers a very broad range of activities that just about everyone in many settings does every day. You advocate for yourselves and you advocate for others. If you're a parent, you've already had to speak on behalf of your child. You may have spoken to a teacher, a daycare worker, doctor, friends, or even relatives. I want you all to think of a time this past year where you have had to speak up for maybe a family member, your child, or yourself. So, why advocate? Your experiences are valuable and can be used to improve things. You know when something is or isn't working for yourself, for your child, or for a family member. You may have ideas on how to make things better. You know your family member best or the situation best. As a self advocate, you know your needs best. And a child is best served when parents and professionals work together, but remember that parents and family members bring their own valuable experience with their child to the table. Family members and parents are the experts about their children, and it's important to utilize your advocacy skills. Professionals are amazing and they have knowledge and expertise in a specific area, but they're only a temporary part of your child's life. Professionals will pass in and out of your child's life, but you will always be the parent. So now that we've discussed what advocacy is and why it's important, we're going to go over 6 skills to become an effective advocate. You undoubtedly already have many skills in the 6 skill areas listed here, but the goal of this video is to expand your skills so that you can become a more effective advocate for your child. So looking at this list, ask yourself, which is my strongest area? What's my weakest? And in which areas can I learn more so that I can be more effective? So we have number 1, understand the disability, strengths, and challenges. Number 2, know your rights and responsibilities. Number 3, become well organized. Number 4, know the key players. Number 5, use clear and effective communication. And number 6, know how to resolve disagreements. So we're going to go over the first skill, which is understanding the disability, strengths, and challenges. And I want you all to think about why this is important. Understanding your child's disability or their strengths and weaknesses can help you know which services are appropriate to meet the needs of your child. It can help you find the right accommodations for them. It can help you set high expectations. And remember that the more you know, the better you'll be able to advocate. So, some examples of resources that you can use to learn more about your child's disability or their strengths and challenges can be your primary care provider. If they have a case manager, either related to healthcare or maybe school related to their IEP or 504 plan. A service provider, if your child receives services like speech and language or occupational therapy, or even websites can be very helpful. So go ahead and think about who or where you learned about your child's diagnosis or disability and who helped you understand it better. The second skill that we'll be discussing is knowing your rights and responsibilities. So remember that knowledge is power. Parents need to participate from a position of knowledge as much as possible. Each agency or service provider has guidelines on how they work. They have procedures, forms, policies, and sometimes laws and regulations. So ask where you can find these in writing if available. Read websites to learn about your rights and responsibilities. For example, we have parent-friendly resources on a variety of topics on our website that you can learn from. You might also want to consider finding the funding sources. This is also important. There's a direct link between how an agency or service is funded and your rights and responsibilities. If agencies or services are funded by the public, they are required to follow certain laws, not just policies, and it's okay to ask the agency or service how it's funded. Don't be afraid to ask questions. Agencies and services often have case managers, consumer representatives, or patient advocates. So ask to talk to someone about the rights and responsibilities of people who use this agency or service. You may also want to consider joining a group or attending workshops for families to learn more about rights and responsibilities. The third skill is becoming well organized. For me, staying organized helps me, especially with navigating like medical appointments and different things like that. Most agencies and services require documents, data, records, etc. So make sure that you're always well prepared by organizing what you have. You never know what you might need in the future, so keep your records. Separate your records by service or agency. For example, school records may go into an education record keeping folder, while health records may go into another folder. Keep written correspondences, including printed emails from schools, maybe county services, medical professionals, or any other system. Keep a list of names and contact numbers for each system. When you go to a meeting, bring all of the relevant records from your file or folder. Keep them in order by date so that you can easily find what you need. Always put everything in writing. It's always best to get as many things in writing as possible, and this includes copies of any letters or emails. Keep a phone log. Include the date, name of the person that you talked with, a summary of what was said or decided, and brief notes of what was discussed. If there were any specific things that you or the other person agreed to, highlight them in your log so that you can check on progress later. Keep a meeting notebook, include the date, who was there, brief notes of what was discussed and decided. And again, if there were specific things that you or others were going to do, highlight that for follow-up. We offer additional trainings at parents reaching out on record keeping or record keeping binders to help you stay organized. So if anyone wants to learn more about that, please feel free to contact us. Skill number 4 is know the key players. In order to influence someone or to make a change you think is necessary for your child, you need to know who to talk to. You need to know who actually has the authority to make decisions and changes. So, for example, a case manager for an individualized education program or IEP, maybe state, excuse me, or federal legislators, city council members, patient representatives, agency directors, school administrators, etc. Another thing to be aware of is there a hierarchy? So is there someone in the system with a higher rank or more authority? If one person can't or won't help you, who's the next person with higher responsibility who might be able to help you? Skill number 5 is use clear and effective communication. The way that you talk to others has a direct relationship to how they interact with you, or even perhaps what services your child will receive. So, if you have a habit of showing strong emotion, ask yourself, will this get what my child needs today as well as tomorrow? The power that we talked about earlier in this video is not the same as aggression. So if you behave with anger, others will likely only remember that you were angry, not that you had good or valid points or requests. The focus should always be on the child and what the child needs, not on what you need. So, some effective communication strategies are listed in this slide, and they include speaking clearly. So, be as clear and direct as possible so that others will understand what you have to say. Give specific examples if you can. So, instead of saying she always has a stomach ache, you might say she always has a stomach ache when she gets home from school. Describe why something will help and describe how something will help. Encourage and be open to ideas and suggestions. Avoid making people feel defensive. Don't criticize. With each criticism, defensiveness increases and listening decreases. Give positive feedback and praise as often as possible. Summarize what you and others have said. Ask if you've misinterpreted or misunderstood anything, and ask to be corrected if you have. Ask if someone is willing to, or if someone is writing down what was discussed and decided, and if so, ask for a copy. And on this slide, we have some tips for good communication during meetings. And this includes being prepared for the meeting in advance. So write down your concerns and proposal on a piece of paper. You might want to consider meeting with a family liaison, parents reaching out to help you prepare for your meeting. Practice making your points with a family liaison, a trusted friend, or family member. You might want to consider bringing a support person with you to the meeting. Again, don't be afraid of asking questions. Plan how you will be managing your emotions during the meeting. And remember that it's okay to ask for a break or to table the meeting if needed. And just some tips for written communication. Letters or emails should always be sent to the person who can make the change. So earlier we discussed the hierarchy and knowing who the key players are. This is where that's really important. All letters or emails should be dated and signed. They should focus on each child individually. They should be no longer than one page. It's always a good idea to set a deadline if a reply is requested, and always give your contact information. And remember to keep a copy of your communication for yourself. And it's also especially helpful to get someone to review your correspondence before you send it. And the last skill, number 6, is knowing how to solve disagreements. So, as a family member or parent, you may disagree with the decisions made by an agency or service provider. Each agency or service provider has formal or informal guidelines on how it works. Each one has procedures, forms, policies, and sometimes laws and regulations. Ask if the agency has a dispute resolution procedure. Ask where you can find it in writing. There are many ways to resolve disagreements. It's usually best to use informal means, so start your efforts at the level closest to the problem. Talk to people such as the case manager or service provider about your differences and be clear about why you do not agree. This often is the easiest and fastest way to solve a problem. Oftentimes, a compromise or trial solution may work. But there are other times where more formal means are necessary to clear up disagreements. And among the options, maybe for special education specifically, maybe requesting a facilitated IEP. You have the options of requesting mediation, filing a state complaint, or requesting a due process hearing. In other situations outside of special education, you might have options available to you, such as mediation, filing complaints, or filing appeals. When families and agencies or service providers disagree, there are things that you can do or say that will help the disagreement be solved more quickly and amicably, no matter which process is used. Remember that you can disagree without being disagreeable. So express that you want to continue to work together for the benefit of your child and that you do not want this disagreement to interfere with that. Sometimes you might partly be responsible for the disagreement, so accept responsibility for your part if needed. Apologize if it's appropriate. You're an advocate for your child only. The professionals you may disagree with work for an agency or service provider. So they must not only answer to you, but to their agency. And oftentimes it's not the person that you're disagreeing with at all, but the agency. So separate the person from the problem. Each person involved in this disagreement brings different information, values, priorities, etc. to the table. No one has all the answers, so try to work together using everyone's input to solve the problem. Help people make sure that their facts are accurate, so decisions are accurate. Choose your battles. Your child will not benefit when the adults are worn out by disagreement, so stick to those disagreements that really affect the quality of service for your child. If anyone has any questions or wants to contact us, you will find our contact information up on this slide. And thank you so much for viewing our video.